very easy on the eye. You wanted to see it. This kid's in your unit, guys. This is a black and white issue. There's no flowers, no more parades. You got to deal with this. So this presentation is exactly that, in black and white, which is the way they live their worlds. They don't have gray zones. That's why frequently our boys have trouble with people. Math makes sense to them. Science makes sense to them. People are confusing because you guys have a thing called emotion. Oh my. Okay? So first, we're going to go through some definitions. Okay, some of this is a repeat from what I said earlier. Autism, a complex developmental disability within the first 3 years of life, affecting their abilities to communicate and interact. We got that part. Pervasive developmental disorder, a little bit more defined than the last time. General term for autism and other developmental disorders that involve severe impairment in 3 areas that are cited as diagnostic criteria for autism. Now that does not mean they need to get hit in all 3 areas. They can get hit in 2 areas and still be diagnosed. Impairment in social interaction, communication impairment, repetitive or stereotype behaviors. This is your flapping or your echolalia, your echolalia, your echolalia, your echolalia. I'm sure none of you have heard that before. Their interests, I only want to spin. I only want Legos. Or, my son's favorite, I only want to touch yellow. Trying to live life that way. Or activities. Okay? The autism spectrum disorder encompasses this particular variety of autism. And again, as I said earlier, it can be from autism, Down syndrome, all the way up to the genius. It does affect the neurological functions. We do know that there is a part of the brain called the pons that develops differently in these individuals than it does in those of us that are neurotypical. We have found among chromosomes that there is a chromosome missing in many, not all, many of these individuals. Some individuals with autism, it's because they've got an extra chromosome. Okay? So this is fairly recent. I mean, every day they're coming out with more and more information, which I think is absolutely wonderful because the more we know, the better we understand. And you know, it's funny. Ask anybody who's got autism, do you want a cure? And they like, a cure for what? I'm not sick. They don't want that. They want to be recognized. They want to be invited. Most importantly, they want to be invited. And they want to participate. They just got to figure out how. Asperger's syndrome, we talked about it, a milder form of autism. Language development is not as effective, and the child may even become precociously verbal. We have several people in here who've already said that. Atypical autism. Now, this one's a rough one. It's a departure from the classic autism symptoms, okay? But you still have some of them. They may only have 2 of the 3. And they may be so mild that this is the kid that we all grew up with, and you looked at the kid and went, no, there's just something weird about that kid. In nursing, we used to call them the funny-looking kids. Just something, you know, their little head was upside down. Well, the rest of us had our heads upside right. An IEP, Individualized Education Program. This is your best friend. If this parent comes to you and says to you, oh, my son has autism, my son has PDD-NOS, then your next comment is going to be, and your son has an IEP? May I read it, please? I guarantee you, these parents will get that in your hands sooner rather than later because, number one, you actually acknowledge that there is a document in place that's going to help their child. Number 2, that's going to make your job 10 times easier. I promise you. Okay? An IEP it's a document which is developed for each eligible child with a disability, and it sets forth procedures that school districts must follow. They are to develop, review, and revise for each child on a regular basis, which is at a minimum annually, rewritten every 3 years with assessment. Okay? Guys, they've already done the work. Why are we going to redo it? Get the document. It'll tell you everything about this child that you need to know. It's a statement of the child's present levels of academic achievement, functional performance, which includes the how does the child's disability affect his involvement in progress in the general education curriculum, which, by the way, rolls over to the things we're doing. Because whether he's in Cub Scouts or Boy Scouts or in a crew, the fact of the matter is, if Johnny can't hold a pencil in school, guess what? He's not going to do it in scouting. If Johnny has a fear of loud sounds, Johnny is going to have that fear in scouting. It'll help you devise a program that's going to work better for you and make it easier for you, so you're not bundled with trying to discover issues. It is a statement of measurable annual goals. It includes academic and functional goals. These are goals we can use. If the goal is for Johnny to be able to sit still quietly for 2 minutes, we need to do that with him too. Okay? Let's see, the functional goals are designed to meet the child's needs that result from the child's disability, enable the child to be involved in and make progress in the general education curriculum, which will go with us, meets each of the child's other educational needs that result from the disability. This levels the playing field for the child. It does not give him advantage. It does not make him above the rest. It makes it easier for this child. I would not hand, if this gentleman is blind, I am not going to hand him this to read. So why, if my child has problem with social interaction, if I'm willing to do something special for his vision, am I not willing to do something for behavior? And that's what this is. Okay? Includes a description of benchmarks or short-term goals. Rome was not built in a day, guys. Functional behavior assessment. This is one of the first things you're going to ask for. What this is this was a professional who sat down with your child and did an observation, did an interaction, and then developed a plan. A plan the child can succeed at. So if the child's already working on this plan at school, hopefully they're also working at home. So let's duplicate it in scouting. And believe me, this is easy. This can be done. Okay? You want to see positive student behaviors. You want to reinforce them. And again, remember what I said. They don't get negative. A BIP is a behavioral intervention plan, because sometimes all good to decide, we do have some issues. We're going to have Johnny, who does not know how to do that social space. He's going to run straight up to the male leader and give him a great big hug. Okay? So we're not going to change that right away. But what we're going to do, and I'm doing this in my unit right now because I had a young man do this and I thought the leader was going to pass out. We're all going to work on how does a Cub Scout shake. And our first step is going to be everybody shakes. Okay? And what I'm going to try and do is work this young man away from running up to the male leader and jumping on him like this, because the boy's 8 years old. He can't do that. Okay? So we want to use strategies to effect prevention, remediation, and development of alternative behaviors. We don't want him feeling bad about himself, guys. You know, this scout leader didn't want the boy to feel bad. I mean, he just needed a hug. And that's who was near. So we don't want him to feel bad about it. We want him to go to the right venue. A meltdown. You'll hear this word a lot. This is applied to a set of behaviors demonstrated by a person with special needs when their systems become overwhelmed. It can be as simple as getting up and walking away to an outburst of anger and violence. Now, I want to do something to everybody in this room, and I want to put you in the world of autism. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this door. I have 2 deep leadership here, right? Am I good? Yes, you are invited. Okay. I want everybody to get as comfortable as you can be. If that means laying on the floor, go lay on the floor. I'm good with it. Okay, ready? Start singing. Something different. Bang, bang, dicky, gang, 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 dicky, gang, 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 dicky, gang, 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 dicky, gang. Someone else, add to this. Gang, gang, dicky, gang, 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 dicky, gang. Beep, beep, bum, 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 bum. Now, how much more of that can you take? Did you do an hour and a half of that?
About 5 minutes.
Training, I could probably go a couple more minutes.
Couple more minutes. Okay. Honey, you and I live with this. We're going to do this. Now, that was a very, very minor example. And you all really knew that in a while I was going to tire her out with my fingers and my toes really sore, so I'm not going to keep that up. You know, eventually I was going to stop. This child doesn't know that this is going to stop. So he is standing in this room. He hears the air conditioner. He's the flickering of the light. He sees her scratching her hair. He sees this. He sees the flickering of the light here. And he can't turn any of this off.
One thing our sons learn to do, and I assume a lot of them will do, is as they get that, he'll just walk off and put himself in timeout.
Exactly.
To get away from it. So you may see your boys do that. They get up, they walk into a different room, they sit under a table, they sit in the corner, they turn around, whatever, they pull their head over, they pull their, to avoid going into the meltdown stage.
Exactly. And that's wonderful that he's developed that coping skill. In Cub Scouts, they're not quite there yet. My Boy Scouts, they might be. I've got one boy that when he wants to shut down, and it's almost like you can see the shades coming down. Well, he's 21 years old. If you were riding on the bus and the guy sitting next to you with a full beard and mustache all of a sudden starts doing, I guarantee you're getting up and moving. Okay, so that is a meltdown. It's different for each child, and we want to try and help them prevent it because his son is a perfect example. He has learned, I've had enough, I need to move. I need to get out of this venue because I can't handle this. It's my own stimulation and everything else going on here. A 504, similar to an IEP, but without some of the safeguards. You know, I have clients that call me, and they're like, I'm so angry the school wants me to put my boy on a IEP, and that's just not right. And I'm like, honey, they're giving you a gift. Because without that IEP, the next time he hits someone, he's suspended. IEP says, you know what, if it's a behavior as a result of his disability, and you did not follow this IEP, he's not getting suspended. He's coming back to school tomorrow, okay? A 504 can give you some of the safeguards, but not as many, okay? They will give you 504 will give you accommodations, such as maybe the child needs a scribe, someone to write for them, or maybe the child needs to be sitting at a specific desk, or the child needs something. One of my boys, we used to have a banner on his table, and there was a red, yellow, and green light. And what the teacher would do is, as Thomas would be ramping up, the teacher would just gently walk by and tap on which circle. And that was enough for him to realize, oh, I'm getting in trouble. I got to change what I'm doing here. Okay? Those are accommodations, and that's the 504. Does anybody here have a 504 plan on their child? Okay.
My son had a 504 well, it wasn't until middle school, but he had accommodations where when he was third grade, he had two different, he had a red and a green card.
Okay.
Green, everything's fine, everything's good. If he feels that he's going to have a problem, he flips it over, the teacher knows, okay, I need to find out what's going on, why is he having a problem? Because he's not going to speak up and say, you know, look at me, I'm having a problem.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So it's a silent way of communicating.
But it's an effective safeguard so that he doesn't go into the meltdown and you don't get the call from school, please pick him up. 504 plan? Okay.
Scribes, assistance writing.
Okay.
We tried to back him off a little bit to learn to write and get through some of that, but a lot of the things are still there with handling it.
And each year you make adjustments, sometimes every 6 months or 3 months. I've gone in every month sometimes.
Yes, my son has a 504 plan too. He has a pending diagnosis of mild Asperger's. He's not autistic. He's actually in the higher level classes, but it's just he needs to be up front. It's just as simple as that. And it also gives him a free pass basically to the guidance counselor's office whenever he thinks he needs it. And that has been enough to bring his grades up and make his comfort level.
Now think about this, guys. Think about the accommodations we're describing. Can we do that in our scouting units? Can we give these children these same accommodations? Yeah, absolutely we can. Nothing that I've heard here so far cannot be repeated in our scout units. Okay? Okay, on your initial interview, what you want to do is prepare your venue, prepare your space, prepare your plan. Who's going to be present? Remember, one of the things that they cannot handle is activity. So find out from mom and dad, is Johnny going to be joining us? And if so, how many people can Johnny handle in this class? Okay? So we got to find out who's going to be there. Parents or guardians, the scout, members of the leadership, and you know, if it's a Boy Scout unit or a crew, bring some of that youth's leadership in. Because they need to be able to deal with this young man. Because remember, Boy Scouts and crews are boy-led. Okay? So there's an excellent chance that your son or this scout is going to be with someone else. You can leave it open, Anna. It's good. Is going to be with someone else. So one of the youth leaders needs to know what to do. Yes.
We've done that. I try not to hide it. I try to make it. A lot of people get upset with me because they think Logan is so normal that I'm making excuses for him on certain things. So, I mean, especially like the neighborhood, because they see one side of Logan, but they don't see when he's frustrated with academics. So, at Scouts, I have tried to tell the leadership, the boy leadership, pull him to the side. Look, Logan does have Asperger's. Do you know what Asperger's is? He's going to melt down at times. He doesn't mean it. And I have seen some of the boys try to take care of him. I mean, not how I would have taken care of it, but I mean, but I stayed back a little bit, and I have seen Logan have changed. But I don't think if I didn't say anything to him,
They wouldn't.
they would have just like pushed him out of the group or complained, and it would have made it worse. So.
That's the question I have is, how do I talk, do I have the parent talk to the rest of the boys
Absolutely.
and say, you know, this is what he does, you know, this is how he handles things?
Absolutely. When I first started in scouting with my boys, we were in one unit, and I kept trying to tell the leaders that every member of that troop was special needs, and the adults got all angry and insulted, and their feelings were hurt. And I hated to tell them that I could easily say, yep, he's doing this, he's got that, this one's got that. And long story short, in the end I was actually correct. Because later on as I talked to all the parents, oh yeah, they all had IEPs and they all had 504 plans. Now that's not being critical of these kids. What I was trying to say to the leadership is, you gotta do a little bit more for these kids. You can't put them at a table there, go congregate and have your family meeting over here and expect these kids to function. It's not going to happen. Then at the end of the hour, you come back and yell at the kids, why didn't they get anything accomplished? Oh, yeah, one's spinning, one's flipping. They can't. Okay? When we went to the second unit, first thing we did was we got together with the committee, all the leaders in the group, and I introduced them to my son. Let me tell you about Stephen. Stephen is so many years old. Stephen has autism. He has Asperger's syndrome. His behaviors are XYZ. Level 1 and 2. If he's starting to have troubles, will look like this. Level 2 will look like this. Level 3, you're in trouble. You do this at this level, you do this at this level. At this point, don't go near him, call me. And I gave them the recipe to my child. Now, I'm not going to tell you that everything went hunky-dory smooth right away. We did have a couple of issues that we had to work through, but you know what? They were willing to work through it because they were given advance notice. Every now and then, ran into a parent who was like, oh God, I just wish that child would leave the unit. Well, he's not, so get over it. You know, we're here to stay. We're not going anywhere. I've had people say, well, can't you just take him, you know, to the other unit that's just the special needs unit? No. Because the reason I'm in scouting is the socialization skills that only scouting is going to teach my child. They're not going to get it in school. In school, you sit, keep your eyes on your paper. I want your eyes on your paper. Where's the socialization in that? So then they go run outside, and they're all trying to burn off energy. There's no socialization. That is a bunch of kids that are trying to get rid of some energy because they know they got to go back and sit down. Eyes back on your paper again, eyes back on your paper again. There's no socialization. That's what they come to the scouting for. That's what we can provide. Okay? So we're looking about the environment now. So now we know how many people, we know which people we're going to have. Lights, camera, action. You saw light. Oh, there he goes. Actually, thank you for doing that, but I wasn't planning on that. But Is it too light in this room? Somebody earlier said
The lights were too loud.
the lights are too loud. Okay, well, we're not hearing it, but if I'm quiet, you hear it now? I'll clue you in. Someone with autism would have heard that the minute they walked in the room. Okay? The timing of the interview. Now, I know every single one of us here is an absolute morning person, right? There's nobody here that needs that cup of joe to get that engine started, right? You all just wake up, you come flying out of your bed, and you're ready to rock and roll. Yeah, you're even not rock and roll now. Okay, length of the interview. These children will sometimes have a certain limit. You can have 20 minutes, then go away. You can have 10 minutes, go away. So that's going to make you plan, what am I going to say and what am I going to look for? Ask to read the IEP. Anybody remember what that was?
Visual education plan.
Yeah, education.
Good. The BIP, who remembers what that is?
Innovation plan.
Huh?
Intervention plan.
Intervention plan, good. And the 504? Lesson
Like an
plan and
IEP.
accommodations, like an IEP, right. Ask to read them before the meeting so that this way you already have an idea of what you're looking for and what kinds of things you're going to need to do, okay? Preparing the leadership and the fellow scouts. Find out their strengths and their triggers. I told you about the kid with the hieroglyphics, okay? The triggers, I told you about my son with the color yellow. Okay, these are triggers, okay? Look at your program. You've already developed your program for the full year. Look at those activities the boy can do and make sure the parents are aware. And then those things where it might be difficult. So when the troop was doing the USS Constellation, yeah, that wasn't happening for us. So what I did is I planned a bowling night. And so I took the 4 special needs scouts bowling that night. Now some of you are going to say, now wait a minute, they can't do the Constellation, how do they do the bowling? Aha, bowling is why open space. Constellation is where bunk to bunk. Okay?
Well, okay, so on some of these accommodations for the merit badges,
Now,
how have you,
the way Boy Scouts of America, and Roger, you back me up if I do this wrong, Fred rather, I'm sorry, Fred. You're not allowed to change anything in the badges or the patches or the belt loops. In Cub Scouts, they only have to do their best. Okay? So that means we're doing flag folding today, and the best I can do is touch the flag and then put it back down. He did his best. He gets it. In Boy Scouts, if there is a belt loop that he physically cannot do, for example, my son went to summer camp, he wanted that swimming belt loop. I mean, merit badge, thank you. And he got into the water, and this kid is like a lunk of lead. He went to the bottom. But he wanted it. 4 of the lifeguards had gone after him because Stephen would not come out of the water. I'm doing this. This is what I want. Now, eventually, they finally got him through that. But come to find out, he could have done the hiking merit badge instead. And if Stephen can do anything, that boy can walk. Okay? Yes?
You have to try it. You have to try the regular merit badge
Correct.
first. If they can't do it, you apply to the advancement committee, and there are alternative merit badges.
Correct.
You cannot modify the merit badges themselves.
Correct.
how has your experience been with that?
Excellent.
Excellent.
If you have a problem with any of it,
You can call me, call Fred, call John. There's a lot of us now. It's not like it was 10
there's
years
also
ago.
an address on the website.
Yes.
If you get that, that will go to John,
Yep.
who is the
Especially the commissioner.
Yeah,
he's the committee chair for this committee with development disabilities and special needs.
Right. That's a long time. We gotta work on that. We gotta work on that. That's just too long for us. Okay. But yes.
There's also, every district has an assistant district commissioner for special needs, or your unit commissioner.
Mhm.
You have plenty of resources.
And again, if you have trouble, call me. I've gone to units, I've done lectures, I've troubleshot. People have called me and said, you know, I've got parent problems, I've got whatever. If I can, I'll come out or I'll send somebody out.
The system is there for you to work.
Absolutely. You know, guys, 10 years ago when I joined Scouting, they didn't even know what I was talking about. This has been quite an uphill battle, and today is a golden goose. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody wants to help, and the boys are coming. Diagnosis, 1 in every, right now they're saying it's 1 in every 55 boys. That's scary. Okay? 1 in every 55 boys that are born today will be autistic. How frightening is that? Think about it. Okay, so what we want to do is, give them alternative activities, provide guidance to parents and other scouts with the leadership on these triggers, stages of decompensation, repair techniques that have worked for them in the past. Okay? It's very important to find out when this child is getting ready to melt down, what do you do and not do. There are 2 senior leaders here that have hearts of gold, but did not read my son's IEP. Stephen got hurt, Stephen went to ground. Stephen looks like a big old lovable teddy bear, and he will take the biggest man in this room and fly him across the room, okay? Because he has that kind of energy, but he's very deceptive. When he gets hurt and he hunkers down, you have to stand by him, keep your hands behind you, do not touch this child until he asks you to. Because if you do, and one scout leader did, luckily I got there in time.
Question about that, though.
Yes.
I mean, if he's obviously bleeding, you've got to stop the bleeding somehow.
You have to be able to listen to what the parent is saying. If my son is bleeding and you say to him, Stephen, you're bleeding, I need to stop it, he will allow it. If not, mom should have told you that, and then you've got to know, okay, well, if this happens, what am I going to do? You can come on and join us, it's good. Come join us, okay? You need to find out, and that's part of that interview process. During a meltdown, if something happens, so you're telling me that when Stephen hunkers down, I can't touch him. What can I do? Okay, well, you tell him, Stephen, you're bleeding, give me your hand. Stephen actually would do that, okay? But to just go and grab his hand, you're going to take a child who's already upset, you're going to startle and frighten him, and it's going to be a knee-jerk reaction, and you're the one that's going to go flying. And he doesn't mean harm, that's just how he responds. Okay. Always listen to the parents. After you've had your initial interview, you want to determine who your key players are and have a meeting with the new member. Now, by key players, I mean who of the adults is going to be around that child and who amongst the youth are going to be with that child. You will find, general rule of thumb is that there's 1 or 2 scouts that will gravitate to these boys, and they always seem to be the calm to the waters. Everywhere Stephen and Thomas were, guarantee you I can tell you exactly which scout would always seem to be around, so that when one of them would start to have a meltdown, Robert would say, Thomas, really? And Thomas would respond to it. Now, if the leader said that, Thomas would go for the gusto. But because Robert said it, that was a different story. Okay? Always enlist the help of the guardian. They know this child better than anyone. Take your cues, teach the leaders and other youths to take their cues from the parents. Answer other scouts' questions as honestly as possible. One of the things that I repeated before, and it's worth saying again, sometimes people will think we're showing favoritism to these scouts, and we're really not. And you can use the example I just did. If someone is blind, I'm not handing him a book. If my child's having trouble coping, I have to even up the playing field. Most youth will understand that once you explain it to them, and they'll be okay. On a rare occasion, you find one that just, he's very competitive, and then that's not the child to have around your boy.
Well, then you can give them the true definition of what it means to be fair.
There you go. Or ask them, okay, can you recite the Boy Scout promise and oath for me and see what couple of words in there might come to mind. Okay? And again, have the parent talk to the group. I'm always available. If at any point something happens in any of my troops or packs and stuff, I am always available. So that if a parent says, you know what, my kid didn't get to do X, Y, and Z because you're a kid, please come talk to me. Let's see what I can do to make this up to you. Most of the time, the parent just wants to vent. They don't really want to do something. No. Disclose only what the parents have agreed to, and this is really important. Okay? Some parents will come right out, my son's autistic. Our parents come up, well, my son's got some issues, but he's okay. Okay? And what she's saying is, yeah, something's going on, but I'm not comfortable with it, so I'm not going to share it with you. Okay? But that should give you enough of a heads up to know, I'm going to keep an eye on Johnny. Okay? If the scout is able, try and get him to talk about himself and the things that are important to him. My son, Stephen, did this from the very beginning. And when I used to be a board member of the local Autism Society, and we would go on the circuit, we would go on speaking things, and we'd go around to travel to different places, and I'd give the speech like I'm doing now, and then the parents would say, well, why won't Johnny eat this, and why won't Johnny do that? And I'm like, I'm sorry, honey. I'm not autistic. Can you ask my son? And Stephen relished this one. He'd get up and he goes, well, see, the Eggo waffles are round. There's no sharp corners in my mouth. I don't like sharp corners in my mouth. When you buy the Belgian waffles, they have sharp corners in my mouth. I'm not going to eat them. And would anybody here have thought that about a waffle? But he did. Okay. Okay. You want to look for the listing of what is the child's special needs requirements. We talked about the scribe, assistance with transitions. In Boy Scouts, our transitions are bam, 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 gone, gone, gone. Cub Scouts are even worse. It's bing, 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 bing. Now you've got somebody who's going bing, 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 bing up here, and they put them in a room of 15 kids, and they're doing bong, 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 bong. Makes for a great recipe. Okay? So maybe what you need to do is find out from mom, okay, how do you transition this child? My sons, if there's a school going to be a fire drill, my boys are always told 30 minutes before. There'll be a fire drill, but that's all it is a fire drill. And then the one time there actually was a real fire emergency, my kid just assumed that he forgot the drill and he just went with it. It was great, no problems. But he was so used to getting that heads up. Okay? We want reminders of behaviors, so we are able to do this. What you want to do is reward positive behavior. Catch them doing it right. And give them a bead for doing it right. Give them a patch for doing it right. I had one kid wanted to do camping in the worst way. And he made it till about midnight, and by midnight his coping skills were done. He was coming in the house, and that was it. Okay? But guess what? He set up a tent. He helped with the campfire. He made s'mores. So when everybody got their camping patch, he got half a patch. I tell you what, that kid walked around with that half a patch like we'd given him a nugget of gold because he got something. And then we told him, and next year when you do that 8 to 12 again, you're going to get the second half of the patch, and here it is, we're going to hold it for you. I'm telling you, you'd think we gave him everything. Look and see what is the plan of action already in place at the school or in the home, and try and mimic it. Okay? So if at school they do an hour, they get a snack, and then they continue, make sure you got a snack available.
I have one thing to say, just to remind you guys, when you take these kids camping, this happened to us, especially on the day that you're leaving, a lot of times you guys just, hurry up and eat something small. These kids are taking really high doses of medicine, and some of them have to eat. So that little granola bar might not cut it, and you're expecting this kid to be high functioning, putting everything together, he's going to have a meltdown.
Yeah.
You have to remember that. That's a huge thing. Apparently, and then they let the boys plan their meals. Well, they had the Saturday, they had a hot dog. Nobody brought the rolls. Nobody brought this. We had no peanut butter.
You
the
can't
kids
handle that.
Starved, and I brought it up. I'm like, look, I understand that they're going to do their own little thing, but we have to have backup food for them.
And a lot of times what you can do along those lines, and I'm glad you brought that up, is talk to the parents. The first couple of years that I sent my son to camp, Stephen only would drink milk, white milk, and he would only eat peanut butter and grape jelly on white bread. That was the beginning, the middle, and the end of his day. Don't bring him chicken. Don't give him cereal. Don't give him anything else. That's what he's going to eat. So I made certain I sent with the unit peanut butter, grape jelly, white bread, and a gallon of milk. All of this with Stephen's name on it. Now eventually, remember what I said about him watching what everybody else is doing? He came back one time and I was absolutely floored because the Scoutmaster said, oh, and by the way, he did tinfoil cooking. I said, what do you mean he did tinfoil cooking? Stephen made a tinfoil meal. I said, oh, and who ate it? He said, Stephen did. I went, you're lying. He goes, no, really, Stephen ate it. I wanted to fall down. Now, granted, he put potatoes in there, which he will eat, and he put corn in there, which he will eat. But he did tinfoil cooking. Okay? So absolutely, when they're planning, make sure the moms, if they have special, and you make those allergies, guys, peanut allergies, red food dye, be aware, put it on your plan.
Flour.
Make sure. One of the things with autism that you're going to see a lot of is the gluten-free, casein-free diets. They are probably the most difficult things to do when you're camping, but it can be done. Okay? And as a matter of fact, I've got a book I'm reading right now that if you guys want to take a look at it, you're more than welcome to. I haven't finished it, but it gives example of foods and things that you might be able to use when you go camping. Okay? And there's a lot of books. I mean, just Google autism, and I mean the amount of information today versus when I started so many years ago, it's unreal. Most importantly with these kids, keep everything simple, guys. Don't complicate things for yourself. Okay? What works in school will work for us. Accommodations, do we need to assign a buddy? Can he handle transitions? Does he need advance notice? Okay? How much stimulation can he handle? What accommodations is he getting that he needs? And how are we going to mimic them in scouting? Okay? In scouting, if you whisper in Johnny's ear, in 5 minutes, we're going to finish doing the fires and start working on the leather works. You know what? He knows 5 minutes, and he'll be okay. He won't even necessarily have to finish it. Or, if Mom's told you, Johnny cannot transition until he completes a project, then what you need to do is tell Johnny, okay, the other guys are going to be done, so they're going to go here. When you're done this, then you can come over here. Okay? Plan the schedule for success. Okay? We talked about meltdowns. Okay? Some levels of ability. Some of the things that they'll do for stress relief. Humming and rocking. Or the one I love. Or that'll make you crazy. But they'll do it. This is self-stemming. Wandering. Now be careful. Find out from the parents, does your child wander? I had one kid, I was in a unit that was right on a major roadway here and a speedway here, and this one kid, and it got to the point where after a while I got to see the glimmer in his eye, and I went, oh, no you don't. This kid would book out of this building, so that I had to tap into one of my venture crew members. I said, Marcus, you got one-to-one duty, because he was the only one fast enough to catch Jacob before he hit Route 175. And if anybody here knows 175 in Anne Arundel, that thing is deadly. And on Wigley Avenue, oh yeah, that was scary. Yelling and striking out. You know, some children, you need to start working. And you know, we don't believe in corporate punishment, we don't believe in bullying, we don't believe, but you know what, I also don't believe in allowing a child to hit. So if I see a child raising an arm to hit, the first time, if I'm not going to get there fast enough, I'll put my hand out and catch him. I won't hit him, I'll catch him. Okay? But then that tells me immediately I need to start working on alternative stress management techniques for this family. Because sometimes when you see that, guys, that's the behavior that's going on at home. Okay? I know I'm almost out of time here. Okay. Know the triggers and how to handle them. Okay? No child just blows up. They always give you hints. Okay? What do you want him, how do you need to keep him safe? What are your warning signs? What if intervention doesn't come fast enough? What are you going to do? Okay? What drives a scout? These guys want success. These parents want success. That's why they're here. Is there a reward system in place? Maybe it's a little candy. Maybe it's a bee. Maybe it's, wow, you did so good. Okay? I have one scout. His reward is at the end of the day, he can come to me and I will give him a hug. But if he doesn't do, he'll come up to me and he'll say,